All right, we got some breaking news. Breaking news. All right, let me go ahead and get straight to the point. This is your boy, the True 777, and I wanted to throw my hat in this gaming ring and talk about some things that's been going on in the crumb side of X and just gaming in general. But I'll start off with Kid Smooth. You know, he had a tweet saying, "Hey, how's the PlayStation still outselling Xbox 3-1 when Xbox had a better first-party output?" And it's so super simple. Look, outside of the crumb side, outside of that bubble that a lot of people live in with the crumb side goggles that they have on, um, Xbox, while had a consistent year this year, hasn't been consistent for the 3 years that it's been out. And that's just the reality, right? 1 year isn't going to change that. It may help it, but it's not going to change that. Now, with that being the case, the reality is Xbox One ended pretty um, flat, I would say, or on a bad note, and uh, came out and flat. I won't say bad, but just flat, and then stayed flat for 8 months. And finally got his games coming out. You know, you had one of the best visually looking games in Flight Simulator. You had an amazing game in Forza Horizon. You had a good game in Halo, and you had a good game in Psychonauts. Uh, I just don't think Psychonauts holds as much weight because it's on PlayStation, so it wasn't exactly exclusive. While you had a better cost variant, yeah, I don't think that makes that much of a big of a difference, considering that Psychonauts was only $40 anyway. And then um, Flight Simulator looks phenomenal, but we're being honest, that's not going to move needles. Forza's going to move needles. Even Halo may even had moved a couple needles at that current time and then faltered. Um, and it has faltered. It's not dead, but it's faltered for sure. And it's not because the game is bad. I think a lot of Xbox games like Halo, Redfall, Starfield, they just look dated, technically dated and graphically dated. That doesn't mean look bad. They don't look bad graphically. They just look dated. I don't really know how to explain it. It's such a weird thing to me, but when I look at that, I just feel like I'm looking at something from the past generation that looks better. You know what I mean? And it just feels old. Okay, compared to something like Hi-Fi Rush, or the New Age of Empire, or a lot of the other games that they've come, or Forza Horizon. You know what I'm saying? Even Motorsport looked dated, but Forza Horizon doesn't, and it's just weird to me. I didn't say look bad graphically. Not talking about like looking bad. I'm talking about looking dated. Totally different things. I have to figure out exactly what I mean by that. But when I look at it, I just feel like I'm looking at something old. Not Horizon, but Motorsport, Halo, and like Starfield, right? But regardless of that factor, um, I think I'm not the only one, and I think that regular people, when they look at this stuff, they're looking at Forza going amazing. They're looking at Flight Simulator going amazing. They're looking at Hi-Fi Rush going amazing, and they want to try Flight Simulator for the little bit of time they're going to try, but they want to play Forza Horizon Hi-Fi Rush. They even want to play Starfield. It could look dated or not, but it's still a game that was successful, right? But it's still inconsistent. And what do I mean by that? This is the first year Xbox had first party games throughout, but first party cannot carry you by itself. Third party is great, and for those that don't understand, yes, third party multiplayer games are going to be the games that's played the most. If you don't know, since the 360 and PlayStation 3, where playing online became the most prominent thing you do, Halo, if we go back and look at it, I guarantee you can find the most hours played on 360 would be something like Halo, Left 4 Dead, Call of Duty, Battlefield, Madden, FIFA, and 2K. I guarantee it. Since the 360 era, I guarantee if you go to the Xbox One, it's going to be the same thing. But now you're going to put in Apex, Fortnite. Uh, I think Halo was dying at the time, so you put in Apex, Fortnite. Even Halo will still be up there. Um, you'll put in maybe Siege and all the other shooters. You get it? Okay. And then this generation is just more of the same. Same thing for PlayStation, except for Xbox had the better online. So just be honest, but PlayStation still would be Call of Duty, FIFA, Madden, Battlefield, those things, right? Same thing. That's three. With the four to be Fortnite, um, Call of Duty Siege and Apex and all those different things, and Overwatch, all these different games, right? And then Xbox One, I forgot to mention Roblox, and now with the PlayStation 5, Roblox. So trying to act for anybody that came out like Dark 1985, who comes out and tries to be like, hey, or any person that's on the crumb side trying to make it like, oh, a third party, that's all that matters because that's what's played the most, is it's an ignorant take. You know what I mean? It's a lack of understanding about what you're talking about. You know what I mean? And it shows that you're ignorant on the subject matter you're talking about, right? Um, with that being the case, when you look at it, right, we understand that third party is going to be the most played games. And I also understand that somebody will buy Fortnite that just plays Fortnite will buy a PlayStation because it's the most popular. But also somebody will buy Fortnite for and on the Xbox or buy an Xbox because they like the controller better. You also may find that somebody might buy a PlayStation or Xbox over the other ones because of their friends list. And these are things that are actually legitimate to why somebody might buy a console over the other. So just saying that popularity is the only one reason why PlayStation is selling 3 to 1 or anything. And I'm not saying you're saying that's kid. I'm smooth. I'm saying that Doc and a lot of other people. There's a lot of they're trying to reasoning why this is happening, and they're thinking within the crumb side lens. So they can, and bubble they can't think outside of that. But the bottom line is consistency, kid. That's it. They've PlayStation has been better and more consistent at picking the big third party games because Xbox doesn't do that anymore. When they put third party exclusives on Game Pass, it's always going to be like a double A or indie type of game, which it can be phenomenal. That's fine. Survivors is a really super fun game. It doesn't change the fact that that isn't going to get people to buy a console for it. You might get everybody on the console to play it and be happy with it, but you're not going to get a lot of people to buy the console, meaning it's not going to be a needle mover. But if you look at and that's why Xbox decided to buy all these publishers. You know what I'm saying? And why they are in the mindset of keep buying publishers. It's not just to put PlayStation out of business, although I do believe that's part of it. It's also because now we don't have to, we can always have big first party games and we don't have to pay third parties to put the shit on Game Pass at unreasonable prices. Now we can just put these games that we own on there ourselves. So Activision makes sense. You can put all the Activision games on there, first party, straight day and date. You can put all Bethesda games. You can put any new studio you buy. You see what I'm saying? Because they weren't getting the big third party games at a reasonable thing for them, right? And that allows Sony to get all the big third parties. They don't get everyone, but they get a lot of them, and they have a good eye for them. They don't just pick trash ones. They pick a lot of good ones. They do have some misses, Forspoken being one of them. That was a flop. That's my game of the year for 2023, but still was a flop. Don't change nothing. So that's what it is, kid. It's just the consistency of PlayStation having big third parties to fill in the gaps when their first party is not there. PlayStation doesn't need their first party to carry them because they pretty much own the majority of third party big budget banger exclusives. And the ones that they don't own, Xbox isn't getting in Game Pass day and date. You got to pay the same full price that everybody else does. So that's what it is. Like, granted, look, you had a good end of 2020, 21, but PlayStation had a good opening on 2020. Xbox did not. PlayStation had the rest of those 8 months with Return of Ratchet, Kenna, Shifu. While you, again, I'm not arguing with the points of PlayStation fanboys and PlayStation fans argue on the crumb side. You know what I'm saying? So you can't make that applicable to what I'm trying to explain to you. I'm explaining to you from just a regular person's point of view that games a lot. You know what I mean? I do prefer PlayStation over Xbox, but that doesn't change the fact that what I'm saying is a factual thing. You know what I mean? I'm not arguing, PlayStation fanboys on X. I know that argument is that first party big budget bangers is what counts, and they discluded the third party, and now they're bringing that back, and you have a reason to argue against them. But when you're just talking to somebody who don't care about that stuff and just talking about it factually, you know what I mean? Because regular people aren't going to care if it's first party, third party. They don't know that stuff. They just know this game looks cool to them. That's it. You know what I mean? So that's what it is. Those third parties like Kenna and stuff, Shifu and stuff counts. Stray, that I don't think that got big because of PlayStation fanboys. Like, yeah, y'all argue about it online, but that game got big because of regular people. Streamers was like, ooh, regular streamers that don't care about console war, ain't on that crumb side of X, and they were just like, yo, this is that game. A lot of females, being honest, a lot of females is like, this is it. So that's what that is, Smooth. It's just because y'all in the crumb side, y'all live in that bubble, y'all got those lenses on. It makes it harder to just understand that, like, outside of this stuff, outside of what y'all argue in the crumb side, like in the real regular X or the regular world, nobody is doing those same things. So, the arguments that y'all have amongst each other doesn't really give you the whole picture of what's really going on. So let me go ahead and move on. Dark 1985 had came out and was just like, hey, the only reason PlayStation is in the position it's in is because of popularity. And I would say if popularity, part of the reason PlayStation is winning, yes. Um, Console sales still matter. You know what I'm saying? It's something that can be quantifiable. Subscription sales absolutely matter. But games are still the overall end all be all. You know what I mean? And Doc, look, PlayStation's always been popular. First console to ever sell 100 million with PlayStation 1. Nobody ever came anywhere close to that. Um, in PlayStation 2, they sold over 150 million, which is still a record to today. Not even PlayStation has come close to that again. And PlayStation 2 was their peak of PlayStation's popularity and still got beat by the Wii, the next generation, and almost got destroyed by Xbox, even though PlayStation 1 with 3 to 4 million sales over the Xbox 360. People would still say the 360 won that generation. Even PlayStation fans will still say that, right? Except for the most diehard in X. I'm not talking about the crumb side. I'm just saying regular people. Okay, so it's the same thing for you. Look, the reason why PlayStation is in the position it is in is because third party exclusives, first party exclusives, consistency, and the mistakes of their opponents. What does that mean? PlayStation 1 versus 64 and Sega, Genesis slash Sega CD at that time. Well, there you go. Sega had split their demographic, and they continue to split their demographic with Sega CD, Sega Saturn, and Dreamcast in the next generation, or something of that nature. So you can go find the exacts if you want. Somebody's going to. I don't care. But the bottom line is they split their demographics. Their demographic with several consoles out at one time, and nobody know which way to go. Neither did the third-party developers. And Nintendo split their demographic. I mean, ostracized themselves from third-party with the 64 being cartridge, then with the GameCube being mini disc, then with the Wii being so underpowered. That's it. Those are the mistakes of those. Sony capitalized on them and took full advantage of the third party being the best place to play all the best third party games because Nintendo had cartridges and third parties didn't want to deal with that. So Sony could pay, they were going to Sony on their own, but they weren't doing it for free. They still wanted some money, and then they had a parent company to pay for all these third party exclusives. Just the facts. From one to two. PlayStation's first party has always been, you were saying the PlayStation 3 had something for everyone. That has always been PlayStation's MO, whether it be third party or first party. They've always had a game for everyone. I just don't think you ever knew that because you're just getting into gaming and you're so far stuck with Game Pass that you didn't even realize when you had systems. Like you said, you wasn't a nerd, so you was maybe moving around different, but when you really got into gaming, you never realized Sony's first parties always had different exclusives. Don't get it twisted that because Sony uh, gets a lot of accolades for their third party over the shoulder story games that their first party didn't do that. Now this gen, you might have a actual fact, and that's fine, but it still doesn't matter. They always and always will have a variant of games, no matter if it's Jen Ryan, Herman Hulse, or whoever. Okay, so me explaining that to you is just what the facts are. Their opponent. You want to ask me what their so Sega was they split their demographic with PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2, and then they went third party. Okay, Nintendo was they ostracized themselves from third party by always doing some odd, awkward thing. And then what was Xbox's issue? Well, the first Xbox didn't really have an issue. I just think it, if I'm not mistaken, came out 2 years behind the PlayStation 2, and that was a big issue, or 1 year, 1 or 2 years basically coming in late when GameCube had dropped and Sega Saturn and Dreamcast had dropped and PlayStation had dropped, and you coming in a year later, you kind of ostracize yourself. Um, that was the only issue. That was it. Um, Lineup phenomenal. The 360, they actually stomped PlayStation out. Well, how did PlayStation make that comeback? Well, the Red Ring of Death was one, and then somewhere along the line, the last 3 to 4 years of the Xbox 360, they just stopped doing third party exclusives, and they even stopped their first party exclusives. And what do I mean? Well, 360, they had like Banjo Kazooie, they had Conquer, if I'm not mistaken, they had the Rare catalog special. They had Viva Pinata, they had Halo, they had Fable, they had Forza Horizon for the first time, Forza Motorsport, Gears of War, so forth and so on, right? Um, Crackdown, their first parties was running on all cylinders while also having all the third party deals because of Sony's mess up with messaging. Sony came out and said, "Hey, $600, and if you really want to get a second job," remember Zach saying that, which was the craziest thing to ever hear. Then they had games like Knack and stuff to show off the PlayStation 3, and it's supposed to be the strongest console ever. They didn't really have any games from there. Knack was first party, but they didn't have anything to really show why you should be paying $600. It was just a whole mess. So Xbox getting a year jump on them, PlayStation coming out with terrible marketing, and then Xbox literally rolling on all cylinders, and all the third parties wanting to be on Xbox. Why? It was easier to develop for. So all the things that's going on now, like the Baldur's Gate thing, was happening to PlayStation back then. They had the stronger console, but they had the worst versions of almost every third party game. That's a fact. So when you say something like, well, the PlayStation 3's popularity, dude, that was the least, when PlayStation was the least popular. What are you talking about? When you say games for everybody, dude, PlayStation has always done that. Or when you want an example, PlayStation 1, from their first party, you had Setcom. You had Jet Moto, first party made. You had 989 Studios, who made NCAA Game Breaker, Game Breaker NFL, and all these other games. You had EverQuest Online for the PlayStation One. Don't That was for PC only though, but still from PlayStation first party studios. They had Twisted Metal, Gran Turismo, and a plethora of other things. But you see, there's a more widespread, right? Then you turn around, you get to PlayStation 2, and you have from their first party Legend of Dragoon, Japanese RPG. They had games like Setcom, Warhawk, Twisted Metal, God of War, SingStar, every Hot Shots Golf, which is also on the PlayStation 1. Again, while the Crumb side don't care about this stuff or these games, never heard of these games, they were still made by PlayStation first party. And like something like SingStar, Hot Shots Golf is made every single year all the way up to the last 2 years of the PlayStation 2. So take it how you want, right? So they were made for at least 4 generations every single year. So hey, I don't really care. Again, I'm not talking from within the talking with the Crumb side. I'm just talking in gaming in general. Okay, if you go PlayStation 3, we know Uncharted, Last of Us, God of War, Twisted Metal Black. You had Haze. You had Starhawk. Uh, Killzone, so forth and so on. That's just from their first party. Little Big Planet, um, like I said, SingStar thing, Hot Shots Golf, whatever, right? PlayStation 4, it's like, okay, you had the Tomorrow Children, you had Kill Strain 1 and 2, you had Riggs, you had Star Blood Arena, you had Dreams, you had Concrete Genie, but you wouldn't know about those games, would you? Um, and I can continue on, but you get the point, right? I'm just trying to let's move along. Um, with that being the case, okay, uh, that's why PlayStation is popular. Because people don't care about third party, first party, second party, in outside in the real world. I said this already. The kids move, and it's just the truth to say to you. That's just stuff y'all argue about. The Crumb side, and it's funny and it's entertaining, it's cool, but the reality is, don't nobody really care about that stuff. It's just like how you really don't care. You just like Xbox because it serves your needs better. That's it. But factually, you know what I'm saying, you really can't argue against that. PlayStation is winning right now. If the Xbox start winning later, that's fine. The Xbox can start winning tomorrow, but right now they're losing. Period. Um, that's not a console war thing. That's a factual thing. Um, with that being the case, okay. Um, what am I trying to say? I didn't lost my train of thought. Let me get back. Give me a second. Oh, okay. So yeah, it's always been popular, and I'm not saying popular is not a popular part of it. I understand that somebody, I always think I stated this already. Somebody that's playing Fortnite can choose a console because it's popular, or because of the controller, or because of the friends list. PlayStation has just been successful because they choose the best third-party exclusives, or they had the rights to the best third-party exclusives because of their opponents' mistakes, and then they have a good plethora of first-party exclusives ever since the inception of PlayStation 1. Now, I will say that their first-party became elite in the PlayStation 4 era, where they started selling double digits, because most of their exclusives never sold double digits because they make so many of them factually. And while the gaming community doesn't care about all of them, the rest of the world does. You see what I'm saying? If that makes sense. So like people will only argue Gran Turismo, uh, Twisted Metal, and maybe God of War back on the PlayStation 2, but they did have Warhawk, and they had people that were Warhawk fans. You did have Setcom, and there was people that were Setcom fans. Mag, which is another first-person Sony game that there's like 250 people on the map or something, like for the first time ever on a console. I think that was PlayStation 3 though. But regardless, is they make all these other games like Sackboy and Tomorrow Children and Starblood Arena that don't nobody, that people would say don't nobody care about. In the crumb side, you would be correct, but in the regular world, these games sold. A lot of these games got twos and threes and then died. Um, like I said, SingStar and Hot Shots Golf was turned into everybody else. Golf was made every year for each generation. So you're almost talking about 20 plus years of them games being made. And the reality is that PlayStation never had a mascot, like a prominent one. Some people would say Kratos, but there's some people that say Aloy. Some people would say it's Drake. Some people would say it's Sweet Tooth. Some, you see what I'm saying? Like they've never had a mascot like a Halo, a Mario, or a Sonic. They just don't. They don't have one specific one. Some people would say it's Crash, even though Crash ain't even with Sony now. But that, at one point it was Crash. Some people would say Spyro the Dragon. You see what I'm saying? Slice Cooper. Do you get the point? That's why PlayStation's exclusives don't sell the way that you were trying to explain. Where it's like, well, why don't? Because PlayStation's fan base has always been segmented. Because PlayStation's fan base has always been for everyone. Nintendo was first party games and what they make, a few second party, third party, and Xbox had came in being the bro shooter box. That's what they were known for. A lot of like brutal shooting games. Left for their most popular games are like Left for Dead, Halo, um, Gears of War, the bro shooter type games, Doom. You see what I'm saying? Like a lot of first person shooters have always done well. Even Elder Scrolls and Elder Ring and stuff is the bro shooter box. That's what it was known as. They like kind of, and they kind of locked in on that. Well, Sony kind of was like the system for everybody. Like even if it's the same type of game, everybody that liked Crash did not like Spyro. Everybody that liked Spyro did not like Slice Cooper. Everybody that liked Slice Cooper did not like Ratchet and Clank. You had to choose. People chose sides and then beefed amongst that on the same console. Well, I'm a Crash fan, so that drink better than Spiral, Ratchet, and Jack and Dexter. You know what I'm saying? Sony always had a plethora of everything for everyone, and amongst the same type of style of games, people would still argue which one they felt was the best on the PlayStation console. So it's the same thing. If I like God of War, God of War's not going to sell 50 million because everybody ain't a God of War fan. Some people are Horizon fans. Some people are Uncharted fans. Some people are Last of Us fans. Some people are Little Big Planet fans. Why you may not give that credit, they are. Some people Concrete Genie, so forth and so on. Now Ratchet and Clank, when that's a part of first party. Some people like Spider Man. While they all are very similar, not Ratchet and Clank, but while those games are all third person, quote unquote, over the shoulder story games, they're different. The stories are different, and Ghost of Tsushima, Death Stranding, all this stuff. Like their fan bases isn't directly on one direction. They are split. That's just the reality outside of the crumb side. I'm not making excuses. I'm telling you outside of the crumb side what it is. You can argue with the crumb side. That's fine. But let's move on from that. I got Kid Smooth. I explained the things with Dark Dark. Now I just want to talk about David Jaffe. Look, David Jaffe is a legend. It is what it is. I just think wording wise, he gives credit in verbally incorrect, but he could do what he wants. So there's nothing wrong with that. But I just think saying that Phil Spencer and Xbox are visionaries for doing basically PlayStation strategy that they implemented, failed at, and now Xbox is just doing a better version of, it's just a little weird. That's all. It's not a big deal, but it's just the truth. It's a weird. I hope people can't hear my phone getting messages, but anyway, that's what that is. If you can't hear it, with that being the case, I just wanted to just say that, like, Javi be giving so much credit to Xbox and their team for having this vision, and he keeps acting like Sony doesn't when Sony already had PlayStation Now 3 years before Game Pass, and Game Pass is just a better version of PlayStation Now, like light years better at that time, and then PlayStation Now caught up slowly but surely. And now PlayStation Plus, I think, is on par with Game Pass. He may not agree, but that's fine. I definitely think it's on par. Not having day and date is not as big of a deal as you think. It may be once Xbox's publishers, all their studios get to rolling, but right now it's not. Because they don't get a lot of the big third party games. Like, if, let's put it like this, if Game Pass had got Harry Potter, Jedi Survivor, Armor Core, and Baldur's Gate on Game Pass day and date, and it was exclusive to Game Pass, even just day and date on Game Pass, it would have been way more effective to PlayStation. And if they'd have got exclusive to Game Pass, it would have destroyed PlayStation factually. All that digital library thing wouldn't even matter. But I just wanted to say that. After that, like, just for those people that don't know, who probably don't care, it's not fanboy stuff. I'm just telling you the facts. PlayStation had already came out with a dongle called PlayStation TV. While it was predominantly for using your PSP on your TV, you actually can download games from the PlayStation Store directly, and play it on your PlayStation TV through the cloud. For those that didn't know, the cloud was trash, but you could do it. You know what I mean? Again, PlayStation failed at it. They deaded it. Their PlayStation had put PlayStation now on Samsung TVs for 6 months before they deaded that too, because that was a failure. PlayStation Now had can only be used cloud wise on PC, and I'm pretty sure it's still the same thing on PC. So they've been doing cloud. They just didn't do it on cell phones. But you definitely can use a laptop for PlayStation Now for your PC. So all the things that Xbox is doing currently, even like having the first TV deal they did with Samsung, it's literally an exact copy of PlayStation. It's just that they've done a better job at it. Period. That's no answer, but it's about it. PlayStation, between Xbox and PlayStation, did it first, and Xbox has just done a better job. That's all I'm saying. So calling somebody a visionary for basically taking the plan of my opponent and making it better is not a visionary. It's just smart. You know what I mean? That's all. Um, Outside of that, um, I'm not going to do it to this thing, but my next video I'm going to do is an explanation of what Xbox tax actually is. I do want to speak on Starfield because it's super simple. Starfield was not a failure. For any PlayStation fan that's saying so, I don't know where you're getting that logic from. It was a success. It made MPDs. Xbox said it did well for a subscription service. I'm pretty sure it even sold some consoles. Well, how many we don't know. I don't care. If it moved the numbers, unlike any other game, that's a success. Being on MPD, that's a success. If you um, sold some consoles, that's a success. Like, I don't care what your opinion on the game, if the game's trash or not, right? I'm just saying it is a success. Um, but for those that are like, that are crying about why people keep talking about Starfield, that super simple, barely inconvenience. Look, Todd Howard was amping the game up as he does all his games. It's not an Xbox thing. He always amps up all these games with getting his fans hyped up for like all these unimaginary things that he's not going to do. But for some reason, they continue to believe him. And what made it worse is not only did he amp it up, the Xbox fan base that was desperate for a really big win amped it up to a unimaginable, unattainable level of annoyance. And I was just sitting there going, "That's it." You know what I mean? If I tell you that this food at this restaurant is the best, is going to be the best meal you ever ate, and you're never going to taste anything like that, and it's going to taste like it came from heaven, and I told you that for 2 years straight, and then we finally go to the restaurant, and let's say the food was great, you're still going to be pissed off because you were thinking like something unimaginable. Great isn't something unforgettable. It's great. It's just like, oh, that was cool. But great isn't like what I was explaining. I was explaining the next coming of Jesus, and you literally did not get that. You got, okay, this was a really good meal, but like, you're looking at me like, dude, well, why would you lie to me and have me thinking that like I was gonna everything I was going to eat, it made me feel like I died and went to heaven, or really everything I eat was just really good or, great. It was cool. You know what I'm saying? But anything other than spectacular, like where every time you take a bite, you're like literally floating in the clouds and your soul leave your body, is going to be a disappointment. That's just the reality. And when you have to hear it for 2 years straight, you're going to get this work. You can't be mad at everybody it does that don't like the game or didn't, was believing in that hype and then got played and bamboozled, want to let out an event for the next year. If they want to keep talking about it for the next year, they have the ability to do so because they believe the hype. You sold them on something that wasn't true. So now you gotta get this work. That's just all it is. It doesn't mean the game was a failure. I'm not talking about the crumb side stuff. I'm just talking about the reality of things. You know what I mean? If somebody cheated on you for a year and you forgave them, and then what I'm saying, you still gonna feel some type of way if you really care about them. So you might vent from time to time. They don't get to decide when you're going to stop venting about it. Even if they bring up the fact that you said you forgave them, in your head you did, but now your feelings are coming back. You feel some type of way every time they do something that makes you feel awkward. You're like, you see what I'm saying? It's that simple. So that's all. People just venting because the fan base continues to do that, and that's probably one of the biggest issues or where Xbox tax comes from. you know the fan field comes out, talks, and then the fan base, as they say, they evangelize their fan base. They turn them into a cult, and their fan base goes nuts and bigs up this thing for a year to 2 years, and it's always an extensive amount of time, and then these things don't come up to live up to that thing. And so you got to get this work. It doesn't matter if it's good or if you do consistent things. You gave me this, you sold me a lie, and now you got to live with the fact that you sold me a lie, and I'm going to give you this work until I feel better. That's Xbox tax in a short form nutshell. That's all. So with that being the case, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. If you liked what you heard, then like and subscribe. If you didn't, leave a comment. If you didn't like what you heard, then don't like, and leave a mean comment. Cuss me out, call me a pony or something. I ain't neither one of those things, but you can have fun with it. This is your boy, the Truth 777, and I'm out.